Welcome to the Lead Pedal Podcast with your host, Bruce Outridge, where he talks all things trucking. Now let's get rolling.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to another edition of the Lead Pedal Podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Outridge, and today we're going to be talking about private carriers, why you want to work for one if you were a truck driver, what they are looking for in 2026. We got a couple interviews we're going to share with you through this episode. But before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit about Bison Transport. Not a private carrier, but a great one. And if you're a truck driver looking for opportunities, they are looking for you. And you know, they've got their Right to the Side program, which helps you be safe, especially this time of year when winter is unpredictable, my friends. That's right. They allow you to shut down whenever you feel necessary. No questions asked. Just let them know when you're going to get going again. This is why many of their drivers and owner-operators are making good money as with their safety bonuses, because they have the right to decide when it is safe for them. So if you want to learn more about the opportunities with Bison Transport, go to bisondriving.com. That's where you want to go. All right, let's get on with the show, shall we?
Be sure to share the podcast on your favorite social media channels.
All right, so we are going to be talking about private carriers today. If you are not sure what a private carrier is, you may be working for one and not even realize it. For there's true private carriers. There's private carriers who are kind of semi-private carriers. They're also for hire carriers. They're in the middle. Many fleets are like that. And then there's the for hire carriers, which And it gets in the gray area because of contracts and stuff like that. But we're going to talk about private carriers today. We work closely with the Private Motor Truck Council of Canada. You guys know Mike Million. And what they do is they're an association for private fleets. So I have worked for private fleets in the past. And they're a great to work for. If you are a truck driver in today's world, it's something that you really want to shoot for, because that is where, as we say, the big money can be. A private fleet is usually attached to some kind of corporation. If you think of up here in Canada anyway, the Giant Tiger stores, they have their own fleet of trucks. The Tim Hortons stores, they have their own fleet of trucks. Home hardware stores, they have their own fleet of trucks. So I worked for two private carriers over my time. One was a chemical company where we delivered water treatment chemicals to different manufacturers and shippers and distribution buildings, that kind of thing. And then I also worked for one that hauled magazines, and we were a magazine carrier, and they had different titles of magazines, and we hauled them all across North America. So there's different types of carriers based on what they're looking for and what they deliver, but it doesn't really matter. They're actually great to work for. They're usually the higher paying carriers. They usually have really good equipment, because the company, the money is not made by the fleet. The money is made by the corporation. The fleet is kind of a service off of that. And they usually don't run as far as your for hire carriers. You won't usually find private carriers, and it may be different in the States, but you won't find private carriers that run from basically Toronto to California. They're more of a regional operation, maybe even provincial, or they have certain routes, certain ways. Now, of course, that can change depending on the operation, but a lot of them might be. So those are true for hire carriers. Then you have your mid ones, which are kind of people like a Canada Cartage up here, which they are for hire carrier, but they do a lot of work with specialty stores, Home Depot and stuff like that, where they would actually paint their trucks Home Depot. So you see a Home Depot truck, it's not really their truck, it's a Canada Cartage truck. There's lots of that going on in the for hire fleets. So where they have some of them just have really good contracts with one or two. Others, that is their main business of how they do business. They work with different corporations and kind of pretend to be their fleet. Nothing wrong with it. That works both, both ways, good and bad, depending on what you have. And then you have for hire carriers, which don't have a corporation or anything tied to them. They are basically looking to just pick up loads and deliver loads wherever you can. So those are basically the three types of. So why would you care? Well, first of all, if you're new to the industry, getting into whichever one you can, you probably won't get into a private fleet. Back in the day, that used to be. you had to have like 5 years experience. Private fleets don't usually hire new people. They usually need to have a few years experience because they're not looking for new people. There's usually a lineup of applications to go into a private fleet. It used to be 5 years. Now it's probably dwindled down to 2 or 3 years, depending on the fleet. But I can tell you that they certainly do things well, and they are great to work for. So if you're trying to get into the industry and kind of have a really good career as a driver. I'm not talking owner-operator because a lot of private fleets don't generally hire owner-operators. They usually will hire a company to haul on their behalf that may have owner-operators, but they don't usually hire owner-operators on their own. That's not kind of how the makeup works for private fleets. So they usually are company drivers. So if you're a company driver and you want to be paid really well and you want to have really good equipment and you want to kind of be willing to, you got to be willing to follow the rules. They're not the kind that they're not looking for someone who's going to be the cowboy out there. You're representing that brand, whatever it might be. So you need to really kind of be on your game and understand that. But if that's the kind of work you want to do, and I can tell you over the years, I've done it many times for many fleets. I've worked for 2 or 3 of them there, and they've all been really good to work for. So, certainly something to look for if you're a driver trying to get into this. So how do you get hired on? First of all, you got to look really presentable. The whole track pants thing does not work with private fleets. Usually there's a uniform involved, but even when you're applying, you need to look the part. You need to be clean, ready to go. You have to have a couple years experience. Okay. So you don't apply if you're brand new. You're probably not going to get into a fleet if you're brand new. They all look for a couple years experience, especially for private fleets. And you probably need to have some kind of expertise with it. A lot of times they're looking for safety, so you got to be a safe driver. That's a kind of I don't even know why I have to say that, but really but then at the same time you also need to, if you have some dangerous goods experience or something like that, it's going to really help you get into the game. And customer service is probably the biggest part of a private fleet. Having good customer service skills, being willing to talk to people, being well-groomed, patient, all that kind of stuff is really going to help you because you are basically the frontline customer service for that brand, whatever it might be. If you think of a Pepsi truck or a Coca-Cola truck or something like that, we see those brands all the time. The person delivering is who you probably see the most. You don't see the salesperson as much. You don't see the executives as much, or the people even making the product. You see the truck drivers the most. So the truck driver is very important. Now, other private fleets can be anything like garbage trucks and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of modes. So whatever part of that service interests you, go towards that company. But realize you're going to have a couple years experience. So if you don't have a couple years experience, what do you do? Well, if you are, you just get your foot into a for-hire fleet wherever you can and get that experience. But no, even a for-hire carrier, you can have great living. I'm not saying that they're not as good or anything like that. You can still have a great living with them. You can make good money, and the same skills still apply. But if you're trying to get into a private fleet down the road, you have to, get your stuff together with a for-hire fleet. I'll give you an example of how this works. I used to work for a for-hire fleet that hauled for the chemical company I went to work for. The reason they asked if I was interested in being part of that is because they had seen me there for years and years with a clean truck. They'd seen me be presentable. They had worked with me. I'd help them out moving a trailer or something if I need to. So they knew I was somebody to work for. So they already knew what they were getting when they were hiring. And this is the secret, that you need to kind of build your personal brand. And I've talked about this many times on shows. You need to build your personal brand so that companies are looking for you and you're not looking for the companies, and you're working where you want to be. People talk, people see what you're doing. If you come into a company and you're not following the rules, they're not going to be looking for you when they're looking to hire drivers for their fleet. So you've got to be kind of willing to do that. I've seen many drivers get picked from different companies over the years because they came in on a regular basis to the dock. They were delivering. They were good to deal with. They followed the rules. They were clean, presentable. All that kind of stuff is really how it gets going. So we're gonna talk with a fleet. I was at a job fair the other day, covering the job fair, and met up with some of the team from Loblaws. Loblaws is a grocery company up here in Canada. I didn't even realize they had a U.S. division, but apparently they do, and they were looking for that. So we're going to talk to the recruiting team about what they're looking for as far as that goes. So before we do that, though, let me tell you where you could start your career off with some great training if you haven't thought about it. And that's Ontario Truck Driving School. They've got all kinds of courses available. They've got 9 locations throughout the province of Ontario, everything from heavy equipment to truck, bus, and more. If you are, maybe you're not ready to go on with a private company yet, you're still kind of trying to get your license, then go to a quality school. An Ontario Truck Driving School is that quality school. So go there, go to otds.com. You can see all of their locations and courses and all that kind of stuff. Worked with them for over a decade. I can tell you, you're going to get proper training. They've been around since 1978, and they're probably one of the largest training schools in the area here. So check them out, and when we come back, we're going to be talking with Loblaws. Stay with us.
By far my favorite station.
You're the best. Oh, yeah.
I love you guys.
That was a good interview with the team over at Loblaws. Thanks for being on here. Before we get further, let me tell you a little bit about Compliance Mentors. As you know, the government is cracking down on fraudulent carriers, fraudulent training, and you don't want to be caught in that mix, especially if you're trying to get better at what you do. So the best place to start is with an audit. That's right. Have an audit done on your system, whether you are one truck or whether you are 50 trucks or 1,000 trucks. Have an audit done and find out exactly where you're having issues, where you might be liable, and then you can go on to your day knowing that what you're doing is right and where you need to work on next. Why wait till the MTO or the USDOT or somebody like that comes into your office? That is the wrong time to start working on your operation. So what can you do? Well, you can call Compliance Mentors with a Z, and they will come out, they will do an audit on your system in various areas to let you know exactly what you got. And then you know exactly what you do. So give them a call today at Compliance Mentors with a Z. That's Compliance Mentors, mentorz.com, and they can get you going right away. All right, let's get on to our next part of the show. As you know, we were at the job fair. We were talking with Loblaws, and we were also talking with my friend Mike Hahn. Mike has worked for private fleets. He's worked for hire fleets. He's been an owner-operator. He's been a driver. And he works for Canada Cartage now, which is one of those companies that are kind of they're semi private. So they're a for hire carrier. They do a lot of contract work, which pulls them into this private carrier. That's why they're interested in working with companies that don't have their own fleet, because that's how they get their business. And I was wondering how that changed for drivers. What does that change as far as the hiring of how you get a job and what they're looking for now? Because they do a lot of work with truck drivers. They also do a lot of work with owner operators. And I wanted to find out what the scope is like for 2026 in this kind of environment. So we're going to we're going to have an interview here with Mr. Mike Hahn, currently one of the recruiters over at Canada Cartage Systems here in Canada, Ontario, and find out exactly what they're looking for and what they do, because they don't do a lot of cross-border work, so you may not know about them, but they are one of the largest carriers here in Ontario, Canada, for sure anyway. So let's find out exactly what they're looking for and what they're doing. Mike's been an old friend. You've heard him here on the program before, and I know you're going to value what he has to say. Here we go. right, there you go. That was a good interview with Mike. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you got some good tidbits out of that. If you were a truck driver in today's world and you're looking to update your program for the near future, then looking into a private carrier may be the way to do that. If you want to see what kind of private carriers are around, probably the easiest way is to, well, if you don't know them just by looking in your neighborhood store, then you could go to a place like pmtc.ca, that's right, the Private Motor Truck Council of Canada, and find out what's there. In fact, I think over at PMTC, they actually have job boards for you, and you can see which ones are hiring. Hey, there you go. You can find out exactly what they need. So check out pmtc.ca to see what private carriers are hiring. I can tell you from experience that the most money I ever made, and then I gotta say the nicest stress-free jobs I ever had was working for private carriers. They are a little more structured, best training you can get, and usually pretty good equipment. So check them out there, and you know what? Follow us so you can get more great work. This whole month we are talking about getting hired if you're a driver, and you know what? It doesn't matter where you are in your career, you always want to get hired. All right, my friends, we'll talk to you later. Be good out there. Hey, subscribe wherever you're hearing this podcast, and we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.
This has been another episode of the Lead Pedal Podcast. For more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit theleadpedalpodcast.com, and be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.